My role in the project, in the Templeton project, at CLEA, is to put the humans in, to see how what we are doing concerns human beings, social systems, human systems, and so on. In that, what I'm trying to do is kind of like trying to stay with the trouble of this question, meaning that to address what is like human in humans, and this is what is interesting me, because in general, even irrespectively of modeling autopoiesis, of speaking about attractor dynamics in general, in modeling human behaviors in mathematical or kind of formal ways, what I believe is happening most of the time, not like 100%, but mostly what we are doing when we are saying that we are modeling social systems, like human social systems, is that we are modeling physical aspects of humans, or chemical aspects of humans, or biological aspects of human. Because like if you think about the human entity or the human society, we are operating on all these layers, yes, and so we are physical systems, we are chemical systems, we are biological systems. And if you take like, for example, like modeling, like crowd dynamics or traffic or so on, this is a physical system, yes. It's like the fact that like it is composed of human bodies moving or vehicles made by humans doesn't make it non-physical. Yeah? So we call it social, of course, like because this is part of the human society, but we are not really like modeling the particular dimension of reality, which is kind of added to all those layers, but genuinely by just humanness as such. So this is what I'm interested in, and there is of course, like like we can use any term in any way we want, and understanding of what the social system is like kind of like a cloud of different meanings, because we can say, okay, like whatever, like more than two humans or just two or more are doing and enacting, we will call it a social system. Or we can like really, like to me it would make more sense to think that, okay, this is the physical human social system, and this is a biological or chemical, and this is like more cultural or linguistic or humane. And so what I wanted to talk a little bit today is, what I'm doing is I'm kind of like going back to the question of the project and kind of like branching out a little bit and kind of going around the conversation we are having with the human in mind, and kind of like like placing some questions and some proposals. And the title for today that I have is kind of complex, so let me break it down a bit. Does this move? Yeah. So what I'm saying is like what I want to propose is some understanding of how we could walk the path, because I suppose we all know that, okay, like if we are really attempting to model what humans do together, like like we can have a very simple thing, and then we like kind of still might agree that this is like what is really happening between people is being represented in our model. But I don't know, like how simple it would have to be for us to continue agreeing. And the more we will kind of like add or kind of try to increase the complexity of what we are modeling, the less agreement there will be that the thing that we are speaking about is really on the table being represented. So we stay with very simple model or basically risk disagreement. So what I wanted to talk about is how we could we could think, and it's more like a thinking exercise than anything else, incorporating those, you know, humane or cultural or linguistic dimensions of human systems into the scope of the research we are doing, and what kind of interdisciplinary, like what aspect of interdisciplinarity is needed for such a inclusion. Starting with like the thing that you know, like when we are asking about goals or purposes, and we say that the science of purpose, like like from the beginning, you know, like the word purpose or the word goal is a human sign or a human, you know, symbol. It's a particular meaning that human beings assign to particular experience or particular dynamics they see in the world. So whether it's like going from inside out or outside in, meaning that like first we observe the patterns and then we experience them in ourselves, or the other way around, doesn't matter. It's like it's both. You have experience of an experience of purposeful behavior on your own part, and you have a perception of purposeful behavior in what you see, in the patterns in the world, in other people, and also in other systems. So I believe that for us to include the human being in the scope of the research about the goal dynamics is also to stay with the understanding of what people mean when they say purpose, yes, what they see, what they experience, and to like so it's like removing all those associations, all those meanings, and just saying, okay, we'll understand this and this and this, and that's all. You know, like you can just fly to a certain degree, and then, you know, like humans come in. So that's the topic I wanted to propose, and to break it down, I have kind of like made the steps for what I wanted to say, and basically this is kind of like each phrase from this title is like another step in what I want to speak about, and this is the path between them. So starting from like what I understand by human systems. I was busy for some time with Luhmann's theory of social systems, and having a background first in humanities, and kind of like, to me, that was the best combination I found for myself between kind of like humanities layer of understanding humans and systems thinking. Yes? So the difference between what Luhmann does with social systems and other understanding of social systems that take basically like human bodies is that this kind of this autopoietic dynamics and closures and relationships are traced in the meanings people, like it's in the sphere of meaning. Yeah, so not so much in interactions of in space and time and biological interactions, but in terms of meanings. And of course, it's not the case that social systems are only made of language, you know. And we had with Francis just a couple of days ago a conversation about, you know, like you have all, like we were discussing a bakery, that there is like such a strong physical component, you know, and kind of molecular and I don't know, like biological and metabolic and so on and so on. So like so it's not that like the human systems are only the ones that are being narrated or spoken about or like established by, I don't know, exchange of communication and messages. So there are many systems that involve humans that kind of like, or maybe all of them go through all strata of reality. You have like a hormonal, you know, like component, for example. You have like a dopamine cycle, which is also a part of it. So they are really like using all layers of human existence and kind of incorporating parts and dimensions of them. But for me, and this is kind of like a dictionary proposition, that the way I understand social systems following Luhmann is that he's calling us like social systems those systems that their kind of strongest or primary loop or dynamics is established by human communication. Okay, so it can kind of incorporate, it can like move, your body from this chair to this chair and then to another building or somewhere else. But the kind of the strongest self-descriptive or cybernetic dynamics is the chain of communication or the loop of communication. That would be like at least in this understanding what the social system in Luhmann's understanding is. And like you can think of an organization. You have a company, few people sitting, in different parts of the world, not shared building, nothing like really like physical to anchor it, and they exchange communications, and those communications create a pattern that is called a company, like that. And this is a simple example. You have all sorts of like cultures, you have countries, you have paradigms, you have legal systems, you have all sorts of functional systems in the society and so on, which are differentiated relative to each other by the means of describing or by the means of understanding particular configurations of signs and words in particular ways. So but then I want to go a little bit more further away and kind of broader, and also trace the path, like what would it mean to move from social systems to human systems, and include and this is what I want to propose to you today, include the entire human being, where like the human being was kind of on purpose kept outside of the social system by Luhmann, so I want to talk about this. So why? Because this is kind of like my visualization of what is a unit. What is the unit that creates the like Luhmannian style social system? The basic kind of atom of that creature is the event of triple acts. So it's like it's a processual, temporal, not really like, like comparing it to an atom is very misleading, because it's like, it's an event, and it's a triple event and very transient in itself. So it has to be stabilized by other events kind of relating to it to have any, existence at all, because it's like, it's just an event of three cognitive choices. And when you are speaking about this contingency, the basic unit, this is already a double contingency. So like the smallest component of this type of systems is already like doubly contingent event, because what you have is this: someone, like not to ontologize it a bit, there happens to be a cognitive selection of meaning or intention, out of all possible things, like going through my mind, all different levels of consolidation or kind of individuation or sense or whatever, crystallization. I just select something, some meaning, some intention. Then I select an expression, and by I select, like, I mean, it doesn't have to be like very conscious, like, so this is kind of like happening, yeah. Then expression is selected to convey that. Here you have one, this contingent coding, yes, because those are not self-identical. Those are not identical, yes. It's like it's an expression that conveys something. And then you have a third choice of understanding of what that was about, like what the hell, like there's somebody waved like, like that with some strange idea in their mind. So if you think about this primary component of social systems, not only it's transient and kind of insubstantial in any way, but it's also basically an act of peace communication. Because there is no way, that such a mind reading happens, that the person, like understands what I mean. So like, in a sense, like all social systems are kind of like built in the air out of like misunderstanding and kind of like not knowing, so that's the primary thing. So when they become more concrete and when they become kind of more reliable and something that you can say, I recognize this system, is because there is like a lot such events referring to one another. So this is kind of like my visual representation of what I mean. But the thing is that an event of that type will be referred by me as something I have in mind. I remember there on the terrace drinking coffee, you said this. I bring my memory of it and my understanding, and I kind of glue those things together. You said something, that was the word, I understood this, and I refer to this again by my selection of what I intend to convey. Yeah, and if there will be enough of such mutual referring to events, then you start to have a more kind of stable and reliable existence of this sort of thing that is a social system. Okay, is this clear so far? So, but then like in itself, this is basically the logic of Luhmannian social systems, how he understands it. The thing is that he was continuously saying, no, it doesn't include humans as components, yes, because who is doing those selections? Who is like referring? Who is making the cognitive choice? It's humans, but the matter that makes those systems are those events of communication. Yeah, so it's like ontologically a different thing. We have a sequence of events of communications, and we have ontological humans who are kind of, for in Luhmann's description, this places humans as an environment, as a psychic, he's calling it psychic system, psychic environment of social systems proper. But of course they are there, so what I was thinking about is that, like, it's complicated as it might sound, it's like a super simplistic model already of what a social system, of what the human system is, because what the human system is like a kind of like a cloud of other meanings and understandings and expressions that don't kind of get mutually stabilized, but they are kind of in the environment of the social system. And not only that, they are kind of like ongoing misunderstandings, that like, I continuously use this word, and we can go on for years. I will say this word with this meaning, and you will understand this word with this meaning, and it can go, last a few decades, and we still do that. So you have like a, in the sense of kind of like a clarity of the boundary, you have somehow like a pattern of communications that are anchored in those, expressions or signifiers, but you have a lot of kind of meanings around, like kind of cloud. And if you can, I see it like a kind of like a cloud of meaning or kind of psychological or psychic events that are not necessarily, I wouldn't call them a system, because at least they are like very, very open system. So it's kind of like a very, very fluid cloud. Tomorrow I can wake up, and this is basically what happens all the time. And I have another idea and another interpretation, and hear you in a different way that I was hearing you yesterday. And this is how humanity evolves. Yes. So if you call this kind of consolidated chain of events of communication a social system, then this cloud of meanings and this cloud of intentions and possible expression and kind of like shades and shades and shades of kind of possible meanings, this is what I would call a human system. And I don't know, like, if it's a plural or singular, because in another project we are researching the noosphere, where we are referring to the like a whole, like like if you take all organism and biological processes and evolution of life, and you call it the biosphere, then if you take this cloud of like all possible kind of mental states, thoughts, understandings, you know, gestures, expressions, interpretations, including the all social systems that are already kind of like consolidated structure within this cloud, then then to me this is the new sphere, you know. So it's kind of like a different in comparison to the biosphere, but kind of analogous. So then there is something, I don't know if you had a chance to have a look at a paper that I've sent to you that was more like a kind of, all I'm saying now is kind of like a staging of the proposition. So what I was trying to do before was to understand how it happens that we see this represented, like kind of acting as those kind of multi-head entities that we see social systems as containing human beings, you know, that we are, you know, the researchers, we are this, that we kind of consider ourselves a part of this kind of entity. And what I found as a, I'm not sure if very understandable, but to my mind, like completely solving the puzzle theory is what's called the theory of positioning theory, which is a theory in pragmatic linguistics, basically. And it's a theory like what kind of dimensions as an act of speech, a speech act has pragmatically, and this positioning is an act of anchoring your speech in a, like, where is it coming from, you know? So it's not necessarily that you who is speaking, because now I can, like, okay, like to demonstrate, I'm now speaking on behalf of CLEA, and I'm now speaking on behalf of the Polish nation to you, and now I'm speaking on behalf of humanity to you, you know, like that, you know. So not that I said anything meaningful from this position, but you know, I might. So the thing is that you kind of, it's not that you always speak on your behalf. You speak on behalf of whatever kind of is understood as acceptable speech act on, like, coming from your mouth, and it can be basically on behalf of any social system. Yeah. So if you will be understood in this action as authorized to speak on behalf of this system. There is much more complication in this theory. There is second order positioning. I can position what you say. Aha, those guys, you know, from Chile, they always speak like that, you know. So, and it's like, what do you want from me? I'm not speaking on behalf. So all sorts of kind of like a game of positioning, repositioning, you know, second order, first order, this sort of negotiation. But this kind of like incorporates an act of speech as not only speaking about the social system, not only passively accumulating the events, but also the social system can start speaking by itself or acting by itself. Okay, because our speech is positioned on behalf of that social system. So what humans are doing, like if we think about this this new sphere, kind of like an environment of social system, you could compare it to like a very, very complicated kind of social game where this kind of cloud of possible meanings is kind of transformed into social moves that count in the game, you know, and then are countered and then are responded to, and so on and so on. But still, you know, those understandings, so human beings, those creative minds around, they're always there and always present. So when we are speaking about the system is always in an environment, you know, and I think it's very important for us to understand this kind of like that they are always a kind of like a pair and need to be understood together. And for the social dynamics and the social system and any clear, crispy, uncomplicated boundary you'll identify, there is this kind of messy environment of people who like tomorrow can just basically start speaking something else. Or so now, the question of like what if we are able to kind of simply represent what they are doing together. And I think this is the problem with social systems, because you will immediately have a kind of contesting voices from all over, all corners of the room, saying, no, this is not what we do. This is not what we are. So, like, what can be represented about such social systems? And what I want to propose is that what is representation is basically like what this kind of conversation of this whole cloud of meanings is agreeing to put on the table, like, and it's creating in itself. So it's like creating its own representation, and I believe that any other representation will be like immediately rejected by a social system, other than its own production and its own expression. Right? So, because, like, if you think about those kind of those understandings and meanings and expressions, this cloud of possible ideas and creative cloud, it will be only, it would, like, the social system it kind of consolidates it into will be possible to be represented in a simple way only if this environment around is not so complicated, it's not so diverse, it's not so intelligent, not so creative, not so changeable. Yes, because and then, like, it will have a stable representation of what they are doing together, that they will agree. The thing is that it seems to me that this is not what we want for human societies, and here is a question of of value. Like, do we want our social systems? I don't mean kind of technical infrastructures. I mean social systems like paradigms and cultures and organizations, to be so simple that they will be not contested, and not that they will actually be like easy to represent or possible to represent without like disagreement of this human environment around, like it. And this is a question of like values, like what do we want for humans? What kind of societies do we want? Like, what would it mean that we have a system of meanings that we share together that is so easy to model, that it will not be kind of problematized or kind of like immediately destroyed by the intelligence that is creating this system. I think, and this is like for debate or kind of like an open question to stay with, that we wouldn't like social systems of this meaning dimensions to be easy to model. The thing is that there's another complication to it, because as we know from like this second order cybernetics kind of logic and so on, human systems are also immensely reflexive, meaning that whatever model they will create of themselves, they kind of like understand by themselves by those models. So it's not only it becomes more problematic, yes, because it's not only that we wouldn't like those systems to be like that, but like by proposing to them that they are simple and they are like that and they are bounded and they are autopoietic and they are kind of like mimetic herds of like mimicking 5 memes from one another and just then protecting their boundary, like we are also kind of presenting a mirror that like is kind of like a self-reflective mirror, and then societies might start understanding themselves in this way. So there is an ethical consideration to it. Like the question is then, like, what kind of mirrors, if we are speaking about societies, what kind of mirrors we want to present to society? And it's impossible not to to disentangle it from kind of like the question of what society, like, what do we value, what societies do we want, you know, what do we want the human mind to be? Do we want it to be kind of closed, you know, because like if we're presenting social systems as closed systems, if we present goal-orientedness as operational closure and success in attainment of goals as maintaining the closure, I think we've, like, looking into human history, we've had it enough, you know, this sort of dynamics. And so it's a question like how, like, what can we model that we will present it as a mirror that will kind of, in the second order cybernetic logic, induce the evolution of society in the direction that is intelligent, open-minded, inclusive, you know, kind of with some evolutionary dynamics in it, without reinforcing closures. And I think, you know, like the closure of a cell in an organism is an amazing thing. The closure of the kind of meaning structure that is kind of like has a very nice immune system to it is a disastrous thing for human societies. So it's just simply not the same. So what I would like to propose is that if we think about modeling human dynamics, that we understand modeling in kind of like a two-winged manner, that there are two components to modeling of humans. And a nice kind of distinction to think about it is in those two words, representation and presentation. That, you know, like when we are speaking about modeling, the kind of it's described interchangeably with the word representation, you know. But representation is a part of like kind of more complex act of communication. And this distinction, representation and presentation, very nicely captures this. I found this distinction very nicely explained in two books. One is a wonderful book, The Linguistic Bodies by Di Paolo and team. They speak about this kind of, you know, there is representation and there is presentation, and also the book that is apparently making a lot of splash now. It's quite like what year is it? 2019, The Master and His Emissary by Ian McGilchrist, about kind of different modes of human cognition. And what in both books the description is similar, that representation is that what you can kind of like detach from the meaning structure and the context of the meaning structure and create kind of like a bounded understanding of what it is, where all parameters or qualities of that what you are speaking about are included in the description of it, and then you will relate to the selection only by the qualities you have kind of put in it, whereas presentation is always including and never forgetting the context of this kind of making of the selection and kind of owning this act, you know. So in terms of human communication, representation would be like a dictionary, let's say, you know, like, I don't know, a telephone, you know, like what is a telephone? It's you know, as a dictionary item, you know, it has this and this and this in meaning. And then in presentation, I could say a telephone to you, and what I mean and what I'm communicating to you, it's really like, it's so context dependent, but it's not only context in terms of what was before said and what was said, you know, like what, but what I know that you know, what you know that I know. So there is like always this loop of the theory of mind involved, that I kind of trace in my mind kind of emulate your mind and vice versa. So it's not only the context of all and everything that has happened so far, but also the context of kind of our kind of emulation of other minds. So this is something that is nicely described on by Michael Tomasello as this recursive mind reading, and he's tracing the differences in social cognition between humans and other primates, and this kind of like the communication in terms of presentation and this mind reading or theory of mind, and how much of our communication includes and cannot really go on without the theory of mind is one of the things he's kind of like pointing out as characteristics and actually making human systems human. So yeah, when it comes to modeling human systems, like whatever representation we'll come up with is employed for a presentation, in a presentation. It's like, it's for a particular purpose, particular intention, with a particular theory of mind of the people who will be, you know, either understanding or misunderstanding, using it, relating to it, and it's irreducible. Like the human model is that, you know, model of humanity, and then you know, like it also becomes any model we create is also kind of like a social system. Yeah, so also people play with it, and so on and so on. We can put people inside the model and say we are kind of modeling them, but this model is never outside of people, yes, using the model as their own act of speech or whatever. So we have been debating this, you know, like CLEA as a research center has this description of attempting deep interdisciplinarity, where by like if by interdisciplinary or transdisciplinarity we would understand kind of transdisciplinary, particularly kind of like systems thinking, complexity thinking, and so on, that you have one frame and you kind of project it on different phenomena and try to fit it. So I'm thinking, and this is kind of like an open conversation in progress between us, that this deep interdisciplinarity it must kind of incorporate sensibilities and values and methods and understanding of what like knowledge from this particular discipline, like what is the context of this knowledge, how it's used, how it's like, you know, like what it does, and so on and so on, including methods and so on and so on. So I believe that this ongoing attempt at integration of human sciences and more formal sciences and like proper sciences and so on. This is an ongoing debate. Like what do people who research human societies, human mind, and so on and so on, like how they understand their acts of bringing knowledge to the table, you know, or reflection to humans. So to my mind, understanding model in this dual representation and presentation action simultaneously would be an example of deep interdisciplinarity in action. You know, that we are not like detaching those things. We're considering those things together. So I don't have much time. I wanted to talk about this just a few words about the words, the word goals, and coming back to the talk given by Francis. If we you know, like take the word goal and making into a scientific term and refer by this to the attractor dynamics in self-organizing autopoietic systems and apply this to social systems, there is more what people experience as purpose than this in the human system. And if we call this a goal, then what we could also see is there is other purposes at play in human minds. And I don't know if you agree with this, but kind of thinking about those purposes in evolutionary terms, in terms of evolving social systems and seeing human purpose, like evolving this whole human system is like kind of like overarching, possibly a goal of like human endeavor, like in the spirit of this phrase that nothing makes sense other than in the light of evolution. So like, okay, so like maybe we could put those purposelessful in those terms, in like what if the social systems are attractor dynamics of kind of stabilizing in goals and so on and so on. This cloud of attention or intelligence that is making the choices, what to say now, how to steer this, no, how to like disengage from this system, for example, or like, engage in this, but modify this meaning, reinforce what this person is doing, but kind of ignore what the other person is doing. It can be seen in the evolutionary kind of function relative to social systems. Think of like a cloud of evolutionary pressures, making those systems into what we want to see, playing the functions, the evolutionary functions of variation, selection, retention, but in a way humans do their cognitive acts, meaning there is this term conscious evolution. So if by David Sloan Wilson, that if you think of the thinking operation in terms of evolutionary variation, selection, retention, and you do it like you are aware that you are doing it, you're basically like playing the function of evolution and being aware of being the evolutionary force of what you are acting upon. So when you are selecting this or this particular intention to express or meaning to express, you are kind of like enacting a variation upon the system. And when you are choosing again the same signifier, you are acting the retention of the system. And when you are selecting this particular meaning or another one, you are this kind of selective force of the evolution. So which is to say that if goals are like within the bounded social system as an attractor dynamics, then I would suggest that the phenomenon of purpose is basically a perturbation, and then those together kind of are the environment of human goal and purpose, if we put those terms on those things, that there is so much evolutionary purpose in perturbation. Okay, so just to finish, because I have some kind of like other vocabulary ideas, but there's no time for it. So what I'm planning to do, and it will be June or July, is to organize a workshop where what I'm saying now will be experienced by a group of people in a room for a few days. That we will actually try to experience the formation and dynamics of a social system experientially, and to ask people to act, to like in the sense of this kind of reflectivity, to see how much they agree with what is being represented, and to investigate like where those agreements and disagreements happen. So this will be more like an experimental component for the project in the human dimension, which I will send you the description, because I probably no time now to discuss it more. So
thank you, Marta. We have some minutes for discussion questions. In the meantime, I'll set up the YouTube seminar slides.
Yeah, but Marta, I have just a nice question.
yes.
So human evolution, it started 1 million years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that we arrive as a society and we equip it with the technosphere that we have by chance, or as a society we had some final purpose, or why the planet or the configuration of on the planet at that moment 1 million years ago allow us somehow to try?
I completely don't see any kind of final purpose in anything in evolution. So I think that this kind of purposefulness that I'm speaking about, it's not like a final cause type, but it's in itself an evolutionary, and it's an outcome of evolution. Yes? So it's like a form of intelligence that has evolved and that allows us to like kind of become aware that now we have kind of this power of evolving something else, like for example our own dynamics between us. But like I think, you know, like in terms of like why things have evolved and so on, of course it's by chance to me, you know, like contingently. Yes, like anything that can arise in the evolution is arriving upon a particular substrate that allows for this sort of variation, which is by chance. Yes? So yeah,
there is no self-determination. In other words, what is that you are saying, that if human society evolved with its technosphere and the capacity to detect, you know, bodies, celestial bodies coming to the earth, and all that is, I mean, there are no self-determination.
What do you mean by self-determination?
Able to determine your trajectories, and therefore you parts of evolution.
Just, you know, like anything else on this planet, you know, like when I don't know, a lion is hunting for something, like is it self-determined that will manage? It will manage if it will manage. It will not when it's not. Like other actors are at play as well, you know. So. But yeah.
Just for clarification, so what are the elements of a human system? Because every system is a set of elements plus relations plus something. Yeah.
So what I propose as a human system is to include those things that I'm building upon the you know, it's always arbitrary, kind of like how we make those selections. So if you take the Mayan social system as this composition of meanings that reinforce each other and refer to each other and therefore become autopoietic, I'm thinking about the human system as including all the kind of psychic, using Luhmann's term, it's a strange term, psychic systems that are an environment of this particular social system. And because they are, and like by now in this,
so that means that the human system is the psychic system united with the social system.
As an environment of it, and
I mean the connections, but the elements of the human system are the psychic systems and the social system.
This is how I'm thinking. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And can I make a comment? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Marta, thank you very much. I want to add something to the Luhmann reading. Yes. There are different Luhmann readings out there, and yes. One of the readings is what you said, that the humans are out of the system. Another reading is, and we had the other day. This is why I want to make this contribution. This might be interesting. This might be interesting for you. Yes. We had a deep conversation here because we had a thesis defense, and here in Düsseldorf is a special Luhmann reading which goes like this. I try to do it in very short sentences. So when you look at a Luhmann system, you always have to see it in interaction with the environment. And what is the environment? The environment is the unmarked space.
Yes.
And the system is the tool to make marks, to mark this unmarked space. And now but this is already seen from a semiotic perspective, from a communication design perspective. What I'm saying, and the crucial point now is that we humans, we ourselves are our own environment. So we are unmarked spaces, and this is the reason why these systems are coming up. These systems are the tools to describe ourselves. But of course, we will stay riddles as the environment, like animals and trees and everything, what we call the environment, the ecosystem or whatever. This is unmarked space, and we, as an environment to our own systems of descriptions, we are the environment ourselves. And this, in the understanding of Luhmann, this was the crucial discussion between Luhmann and Jürgen Habermas in 1969. So this was this big discussion. Habermas said, you will keep the humans out of the system. And Luhmann said, no, don't get me wrong. I don't want to keep the humans out of the system, but the point is that the humans are the environment for the systems, that the environment, the unmarked space, is producing itself as a tool to set marks.
Yes.
And then, of course, these systems, they get self-maintaining, and then you have this situation that there is a system of meanings where no humans are. It runs for itself. And now this whole idea opens up the doors to interdisciplinarity, because it is like this. So the thesis of Luhmann then was, we can only describe things in difference to each other. So if the unmarked space stays the unmarked space, and our systems are just tools to mark the unmarked space, nobody can say what is the right mark. So this is a constructivist position, and more or less. And so we can only come close to truth if we look at the differences. And this whole idea of differences is you know, it's like the four Gospels of John and of Marcus and Matthäus and so on. This is the reason why these four books are not coherent in their stories, because to show that the truth lies in the difference. And so this was the idea that it doesn't matter if you start to try to describe something from the perspective of humanities, from the perspective of psychology, from the perspective of the arts or whatever, because you have to talk to each other and to show each other your findings, because just in the difference, lies the progression. So yeah. This in short, what one of the possible readings of Luhmann is, just to add it to the picture.
Yeah, and maybe I wasn't clear. You know, like it's not like that I want to make, like what I wanted to do is to make a correction of Luhmann, because it's really not the case that he has kicked out the humans, and I completely understand what he wrote, that he's making humans more by this action, not less. and so it's not about that I want to include them because they are not included. I want to include them as an environment of our thinking about modeling, because he was not doing modeling.
Yeah, I think this is a great step.
Of the people involved in, like, represented by the models, then I think it's important to remember that this environment is necessary for the system to make sense. So that was kind of like what I was saying. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Marta, again. And we will have, of course, as expected, a few